Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mercy Ogechi. This is the continuation and sewing part of the funnel corset. If you've not yet seen the drafting part, you may want to go back and check it out, and I'll also be leaving it in the description box. So let's get straight to it. First thing I did was to iron hairstay on the fabrics. Then for the bustier parts, I added soft wadding. It's time to join the pieces together, and I have two pieces of each of the fabric. One is for the lining and the other is for the main fabric. As you can see, this is the center front. I'm going to be sewing the main fabric first before the lining. So I picked one of the pieces, then I also picked my middle front and place it by the side this way. I used my pin to secure it, and I'll be doing the same thing on the other side. So after pinning the both sides, this is what I have. I'm also going to get the side front and join it this way to the middle front. I'm going to do it on the both sides of the middle front. I'll pin it down, then use 1/2 inch to sew on all the joinings. So this is what it will look like after sewing, but let me go and sew it and show you. And I'll also sew the lining exactly the same way. Here is it after joining. So the next thing is to join the back pattern, and as usual I also cut out two pieces of all the pattern, one for the main fabric and one for the lining. So I'm going to pick the side back and join it to the center back this way. I'll pin it down and join with 1/2 inch. I'll do the same thing for the lining. The placket is going to be joined last after the whole sewing. So next thing is to go over to the ironing board and flat iron on all the joinings, both for the front and that of the back, and also the line. This is it after ironing. This is the front and also the back. Next thing is to draw out the style line. Now, however you want to draw out the style line is your choice. If you want it slanty, you go ahead and draw it in a slant form. But if you want it straight, you can also do that. You're going to first of all get the midpoint. Then from the midpoint, you draw the other lines. Just make sure that whatever measurement you use on one part is what you're going to use on the other part, so they can be equal. Next is to add boning to the style lines. Now there are different sizes of boning. We have the 0.5, 0.25, 0.3. Here I have the 0.5 and 0.25. So I'm going to be using the 0.5, which is the bigger one, for the style lines. Then I will use the smaller one for caging the bustier. There are different methods of adding boning to corset, but I'm going to be showing you this one. First of all, you're going to cut out the boning, leaving 1/2 inch at the top and at the hem of the corset. You are going to get your bias already ironed, or you use your fabric in place of the bias. For me, I cut out a long strap of my fabric measuring 0.5. Then I will place the boning at the center of the bias this way. I'm going to sew it very close to the style line and also very close to the boning, but not on the boning, so that we'll be able to flip it to the other side. As you can see, I left 1/2 inch before the boning, and also the boning is at the center of the bias. I'm going to cover it up this way. Then I'll sew from the top to the hem, and I'll also be leaving 1/2 inch after the boning at the hem. Here is it after sewing close to the style line. Next is to flip it this way and top stitch on the boning. You're going to sew at the edge of the boning, on the two sides of the boning. This is what it will look like after sewing, but I'm going to show you all for the second time, then I'll go offline and complete the rest. First thing you're going to do is to mark half an inch at the top and at the hem of your corset. The essence of leaving this half inch before the boning is to enable you turn the lining. From the half inch, you are going to measure and cut out the boning, then get your bias, move over to the sewing machine, then place the boning at the center of the bias and sew very close to the style line. So after that, you're going to flip it this way and then sew at the edge of the boning. You're going to sew on the two sides of the boning. This is it after sewing. You can see how beautiful it's looking already. So I'm going to go off camera to complete the rest, then I'll come back to show you the results. I'm done adding boning to the style lines, and this is what I have. I also did the same thing for the back. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to join the back to the front. So you're going to join the side back to the side front this way. When I was done joining the sides, this is what I have. Next is to get my lining. I'm not going to turn it the usual way. I'm going to be placing it this way, wrong side facing each other, because I'm going to be piping the top and the hem, and I'll be adding plackets at the center back. So just pay attention. You're going to run a stitch on the top of the corset this way from one side to the other. Then you're also going to run a stitch at the side on the both sides. Then for the hem, you're not going to run a stitch. You're going to hold it down with a pin. And as you're running the stitch, make sure that the joining on the lining is matching with the joining on the main fabric. I'm done joining the lining to the main fabric, as you can see here. So the next thing I'm going to do is to get my boning, the 0.3. Then I'm going to sew it this way. This is it after sewing the boning. As you can see, it's giving the funnel shape already. So what I'm going to do next is to cover it up with bias. I'm going to get another bias, 0.5, and sew from the back to the front to cover it up. So when that was done, this is what I have. Next thing I'm going to do is to join the placket at the center back. The placket is folded into two, and I close the upper part, leaving the down and the side open. Then I'm going to run a half-inch stitch from the top to the hem, and also from that half-inch I'm going to measure another 0.8 inch and run a stitch. The half-inch is for the plastic boning, while the 0.8 is for the eyelets. As you can see, I used my fabric pen to mark out the lines before sewing on them. So this is it after sewing. I'm going to join it this way to the corset. I'm going to match it up this way. Then I'll run a stitch from the top to the hem using half an inch. Now I'm going to flip it over to the wrong side, and I'm going to fold in the excess. I'm going to fold it in this way and then top stitch. When I was done with everything, this is what I have, and I'll also do the same thing on the other side. Now you can go ahead and add plastic boning to the placket and other boning channels. Now adding plastic boning to the other boning channels is optional, and if you want to add, you have to use the plastic boning of 0.25 and not the half inch, because if you use the half inch it will not fit in. And when you're done with all of that, you're going to use your bias and pipe the hem all around. So this is what I have after piping. We are done with the funnel, the corset part. So let's move over to the bustier part. You're going to join the center front and the side front just to normal way we sew our princess dart with half an inch. So you're going to do the same thing for the lining. And after sewing, you're going to go over the ironing board and flat iron the joining. After sewing and ironing, this is what I have. This is my bustier. So the next thing I'm going to do is to trim out the excess, and after that I will get my lining and use my marker to draw out the caging pattern. So here I'm marking out the pattern for the bust cage. One of the secrets to getting a good bust cage is by following the right pattern, that is drawing out the right curves. When marking the lines, make sure that the lines are curved towards each side. Don't make it straight. If you make it straight, after sewing your bust cage, it's going to be flat. So you're going to make sure that it is in a curvy way. If the curve is facing the right side, make sure that when you're marking the lines, the curve is facing the right. If it's facing the left, make sure that the curve is also facing the left. Don't just make it straight. The only time you get to mark a straight line is when marking for the center front. And for the horizontal line, make sure that it hits the nipple point. You can go ahead and add as much lines as you want, but me, I decided to leave my own this way. The boning I use for the bust cage is the one of 0.3. I'm done with the bust caging. This is what I have. This is it. So what I'm going to do next is to turn it this way. Then I'm going to iron hemming gum and fiber to it, just to give it a little bit fleshy effect, so that the boning doesn't make you uncomfortable while wearing it. After ironing the fiber and adding flesh to it, this is what I have. So I'm going to get the main fabric and I'm going to turn it inside out. So this is the outcome of the bustier. You're going to get your corset and tack it down, making sure that the bustier is at the under bust. You're going to use your needle and thread or whatever you can use to tack it down, and that is all. We have come to the end of this tutorial. So if you find this video helpful and interesting, don't forget to give me a follow, a like, share and comment. See you in my next video. Bye.